Under the city sky ablaze with lights, a shocking news report stunned the entire nation. The identity of the notorious swindler who had deceived millions was finally exposed. But this isn't just a story about a 100 billion won scam. It's also the strange, dark, and surprising journey of a child prodigy in the world of professional swindlers. From a boy with no family, he gradually became the center of a sophisticated scamming gang. From that day on, the boy was completely immersed in the deceitful schemes orchestrated by his fathers. Every operation they carried out never failed, succeeding to a frightening degree. Gradually, the boy was not just an executor, but also became the planner of sophisticated scams. A sense of thrill arose as he watched each prey fall into the carefully prepared traps of lies. It seemed as if the whole world lay in the palm of his hand. By then, he was no longer just a family member, but had become an indispensable link in that scamming ring. Breaking news flashed on an electronic screen in the middle of the street, stunning the public. In a live news report, it was announced that the identity of the swindler who had shaken the entire nation had been revealed thanks to an anonymous source. The live report detailed the swindler who had carried out a 100 billion won operation, severely affecting 30% of the population. The scale of the scam reached an unbelievable number, 100,000 won victims. But that wasn't all. Deeper investigations revealed the swindler had participated in many other fraudulent activities since a very young age. Currently, the suspect is still on the run while the police are relentlessly pursuing him. He just smirked in annoyance, not bothering to hide well. Identified as a 35-year-old man with no birth registration, the police were still unsure if the name he used was his real name. Finally, the authorities announced the identity of the criminal as Han Jun-woo, 35 years old, simultaneously broadcasting his portrait across all media. Han Jun-woo, watching the news, frowned in annoyance, muttering, "Why did they have to pick that damned photo?" Looking at the moonlight outside the window, he sighed, accepting reality. As the manhunt intensified, he quietly retreated into his luxurious room and decided to rest. The story flashes back 30 years. A young boy is being sternly questioned by an adult. "Did you take that?" In a large room, the child looked up at the person opposite him and softly replied, "I don't know, sir, ma'am." Tears welling in his eyes, the boy mumbled, "I really didn't see anything." Nearby, a man in a suit scratched his head in confusion, muttering, "Where on earth did it disappear to?" His expression turning anxious, he quietly planned his retreat before drawing attention. The scene changes to a high-end daycare center, only accepting children from prestigious families. At a social gathering, the same man from before walked around muttering, "I don't have a wife or kids, why am I here?" Then his eyes lit up as he remembered his true purpose. Suddenly he bumped into a woman. She gasped as the wine glass in her hand shook. Wine sloshed out of the glass. Taking advantage of that moment, he skillfully slipped the ring off her finger with a fleeting touch of his hand. He quickly apologized. "Are you all right?" The lady smiled. Fortunately, the wine didn't spill. Still feigning concern, he justified, "I was in such a hurry." She gently reassured him, "It's okay, it's crowded." As he walked away, he smirked, looking at the ring in his hand. Easy prey. Holding the ring, he thought to himself, "Good, time to go back to my spot." But unexpectedly, the ring slipped from his hand. "Ah!" He let out a small sound as he saw the ring fall. He frantically lunged after it as the ring rolled across the glossy stone floor. "No!" And then his gaze stopped at the boy from earlier. The ring lay right in front of the boy's feet. The boy burst into tears, sobbing, "I didn't take it, I swear." The man was momentarily flustered, feeling the boy was genuinely innocent. Knowing the crying would attract trouble, he hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding." As he hastily turned to leave, still wondering, "Damn it, where did the ring go?" a woman approached the child. She bent down and gently asked, "Who are you, son? Why are you crying here? Your home isn't here, is it?" The man overheard, his face paling. Stunned, he thought to himself, "What did she just say?" Then stammered as he walked over, The woman tilted her head and asked directly, "Are you the child's father?" He was tongue-tied. In his mind, he screamed, "I'm not his dad!" But knowing that denial would expose his trespassing, he feebly protested, My son is around here somewhere. Then silently cursed, "What the hell is this?" And just then, the boy cried out, "Dad!" The boy ran to him, clutching the man's suit jacket, stunning him. "Huh?" The child choked out, "Don't leave me." A tear rolled down his cheek as he sobbed, "I'm sorry, I won't ask for toys anymore." The man was silently desperate. "Why am I your dad?" People around them started whispering, suspiciously wondering if he was really abandoning his child or just an imposter who had infiltrated the high-end daycare. Someone whispered, "No way." Forcing a smile, he hugged the boy, laughing fakely. "Son, Dad said he wasn't leaving." Then he continued, "If you like something, of course Dad will buy it for you," and whispered, "Let's go." Scene changes to a narrow alley, the late afternoon sun casting a vibrant orange glow on the walls. Having stopped in a deserted corner, the man put the child down, panting, and growled, "Who are you?" The boy looked at him with innocent yet puzzled eyes. "What do you mean by that, mister?" The man angrily asked, "Why did you say I was your dad?" The child calmly replied, "You said it yourself." The man was completely stunned, stammering, "Me? When did I—" As he looked at the small boy standing there, his eyes calm as if nothing had happened. The boy, his bright eyes fixed on the man, calmly stated, "You lied." The man stood silently, unable to utter a word, a bead of sweat rolling down his cheek as the boy continued, "I saw everything." Standing in the dark alley, the boy tilted his head and asked, "The game is over, right? I mean, the game between you and me." The man could only repeat, "Game?" With a bright, radiant smile, the child exclaimed, "That was fun." The man still had a cold sweat bead on his temple, whispering, "Game, huh?" Then asked, "Where's your home? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up, his eyes sparkling, and gently replied, "I don't have any." Then he surprisingly asked back, "Don't you also not have a home just like me?" Which made the man ask in astonishment, "No home? Then where do you live?" The boy pointed vaguely and explained, "I just go anywhere and do what I did earlier." An image of children being picked up from daycare appeared as an illustration. He clarified, "As long as other people's parents come to pick them up, no one notices." And, he added, "No one cares, as long as they think someone will come for them." The boy suddenly seemed to remember something, exclaiming, "Oh, right!" Then proudly pulled the stolen ring from his pocket, declaring, "I won." The man stared at the ring, his expression unreadable, but clearly highly focused. A close-up shot. The man's eyes widened in shock as he stammered, This is," looking at the ring, trembling. He looked at the sparkling gem on the boy's small hand and exclaimed, "My ring." Holding the retrieved ring, the swindler looked at the child, waiting with eager eyes, who asked again, "I won, right?" A flashback appeared, the boy crying and denying the accusation, making the man remember, just a moment ago he said he knew nothing. He thought about the child's actions, how he had pretended to be a kindergartner and sneaked in. Then the truth hit him. This kid had even outsmarted the renowned Go-In Nam. The boy smiled, a faint but bright smile, holding out the ring, while the man thought to himself, "This kid is probably not even 5 or 6 years old." A cold sweat bead rolled down his temple as he looked at the child with extreme confusion, silently wondering, who on earth is he? The boy stood there, his tiny hand innocently holding out the ring, his blue eyes looking up at the man. A close-up angle revealed a chillingly sharp and perceptive gaze from the boy's eyes. Then he posed a chilling question. "You're scared of me too, aren't you?" Making the man's eyes widen in astonishment. He covered his mouth with his hand, silently asking himself, "What kind of expression did I just show? Scared?" He thought further, "Why would I be scared of a boy who's only 5?" While sweat continued to drip. Facing the small child before him, the man had to admit to himself, his eyes bewildered, "I'm really scared of this kid." He also had to acknowledge internally that this child possessed true talent. While the boy looked down, his expression thoughtful. A close-up shot shows the man's lips slightly parted, preparing to make an offer. He extended his hand, palm open towards the boy. Standing in the alley with the sunset casting light on his back, he asked, "Do you want to come with me?" The boy's bright blue eyes widened slightly at the unexpected question. The man's hand gently took the boy's tiny hand, And the boy said, "Thank you for that day." He continued, blushing slightly. "So I have a family." The man and the boy walked hand in hand, a new bond forming. The boy remembered that man, Go In Nam, as his first father. A faint smile appeared on Go In Nam's lips. However, the boy's narration indicated there was still something important he didn't know back then. A creaking sound is heard. A somber narration reveals that, besides Go In Nam, something else was true. As the boy looks up at a large figure, with two others flanking him, the truth is revealed. He actually had 3 more fathers. In another scene, a different boy is crying, pleading, "Mister, please help me. My mom and my little brother are in danger." Back to the first boy, he's eating with Go In Nam, and another man, eyes glued to the TV screen, curiously asking, "What are they doing?" Go In Nam replied, "Oh, it's like that game you enjoy. They're playing that." Go In Nam reassured the crying boy from before, patting his head and saying, "It's all fake, just trust me," while the boy sobbed and asked, "Will you really help me?" The first boy stared wide-eyed at the long-haired man eating across from him, who looked back intently. The long-haired man asked him, "Do you want to try doing that?" And the boy delightedly asked back, "Really?" The other man nodded. "If you're family, you absolutely can." The boy excitedly raised his fist, shouting, "I want to do it," confidently adding, "I'm good at it too." Go In Nam frowned slightly. "Wait, about that." Close up on the child's sparkling blue eyes, filled with determination and anticipation. The story shifts to the second boy standing under a dim streetlight in the dark night, calling out, "Mister!" He looked up at an indistinct figure, his voice full of anxiety. "My mom." Tears streamed down his cheeks, hands clasped in a plea, "Please help my mom and my little brother." Later, it's the same boy, his face beaming, fanning a wad of cash to show off. "I did well, didn't I? That man gave me this too." He held out the money proudly, saying, "He was completely fooled by me." The long-haired man stared, his eyes sharp as a knife, as the boy eagerly asked, "When's the next job? What role will I play this time?" A chilling close-up captures the long-haired man's sinister smirk. From that day on, the boy was completely immersed in the deceitful schemes orchestrated by his fathers. Every operation they carried out never failed, succeeding to a frightening degree. Gradually, the boy was not just an executor, but also became the planner of sophisticated scams. A sense of thrill arose as he watched each prey fall into the carefully prepared traps of lies. It was as if the whole world lay in the palm of his hand. By then, he was no longer just a family member, but had become an indispensable link in that scamming ring. Suddenly, an angry shout echoed through the room, "Damn it!" Han Jun-woo, now grown up, angrily questioned one of his fathers. "I told you not to touch that case. Why didn't you listen?" The long-haired man defensively retorted, "It was 100 billion won. 100 billion, how could I ignore that? I didn't think things would go this far." Go In Nam turned to Jun-woo, his face tense, pleading, "Jun-woo, isn't there any way? You're the smart one, right?" Nam gasped in despair upon hearing the reply. "There's nothing left. Give up." He put his hand to his forehead, desperately realizing it was all over. The long-haired man grabbed Jun-woo, his voice urgent. "Is there a way? Is there?" Then shouted, "Forget it. If we get caught this time, we're really done for." Go In Nam continued to plead with Jun-woo, "Please, you're our son, save your fathers." Amidst scattered bottles, another voice chimed in, "You think it's over? If we go down, everyone goes down, damn it." Go In Nam placed a hand on Jun-woo's shoulder, gently reassuring, "Don't worry too much, Jun-woo." He smiled, adding, "Maybe it's time for us to retire." Jun-woo bowed his head, his trembling hand on Go In Nam's shoulder, heart heavy. "Dad." Close-up shows Han Jun-woo's brilliant blue eye. His gaze changed, filled with new determination. That gaze sharpened as he thought to himself, "If I get caught, so be it. Maybe it's for the best." He didn't entirely hate scamming, as an image of a prison under a gray, rainy sky appeared. Jun-woo reflected, "Back then I stepped onto this path without really knowing what I was doing. I only knew that over time, an emotion surged within me. That singular emotion, visible in his melancholic eyes as he looked at the detention center, was regret. Even so, he still considered regret a useless emotion. The shot lingers on a tightly closed prison cell window, light blurring through it. In that dark, cramped space, he confessed, "I'm so sick of it. Tired of these fathers blinded by greed." Huddled in the dark prison cell, he recalled a life of constant running. With a gaunt face, he sighed, "Yeah, this is the end." His eyes closed, resignation evident on his weary face. Suddenly, his blue eyes snapped open at an urgent call. "Son!" A man's face appeared, contorted from shouting, eyes filled with desperation. Someone's hand grabbed Junwoo's collar, yanking him awake. He was currently sitting on a chair. His blue eyes widened in shock, mouth stammering, What the hell?" In front of him was a golden, glistening piece of fried chicken, seemingly the cause of all the commotion. Go-In-Nam sat on the floor, clutching a chicken thigh, while another father tried to pull him back, yelling, "Dad, you're doing it again!" Junwoo's eyelid twitched slightly as he uttered, "Ah." Both Go-In-Nam and the other man burst out laughing. Go-In-Nam gleefully said, "At least I managed to protect the chicken thigh," while Junwoo thought, "Dad." Junwoo sat still, his expression impassive. Go-In-Nam smiled. "Eat up, son. You're about to enter high school. Eat a lot. There's still time." Junwoo wondered, "Huh? What do you mean, Dad?" Then, as if something clicked, he looked up, hand outstretched, bewildered, asking, "Am I about to go to high school?" On a whiteboard was the next plan. Target Principal Gong Jin-ju of Gong Jin-ju Middle School. A fake contract, and Junwoo approaching after the group disguised themselves as gangsters. The long-haired man stood by the whiteboard, detailing each step of the plan. Han Junwoo sat at the table, arms crossed, listening intently to what was being laid out. He remained silent, his gaze thoughtful as he absorbed all the information. One father pointed to the board, excitedly exclaiming, "Han Junwoo, are you listening?" While Junwoo was still lost in thought. Junwoo's thoughts echoed, "Gong Jin-ju Middle School is the target this time?" He recalled, the principal. Could it be that incident from 20 years ago? The plan was for Junwoo to accompany the principal to Incheon Hotel, pretending that the contract partner's son attended the school, which would help build trust. Then they would trick the principal into signing the fake contract Junwoo had prepared. Then the whole group would move to a VIP gathering place, where Jang Jun-gun and Park Hyung-sik, disguised as gangsters, were waiting, causing the principal to panic and want to cancel the contract. Not wanting to be exposed for associating with gangsters, the principal would be extorted for money to break the contract. The father finished presenting, turned to Junwoo and everyone and asked, "That's the plan, right?" Junwoo slowly stood up. Go-In-Nam was surprised, silently praising his son's cunning, while another father scolded Junwoo. "Hey kid, that's the plan. What's with that tone, you brat?" That person said Junwoo didn't have a major role and would step back first. Another man remarked, "I thought Junwoo was just going through puberty, so he's acting weird." The long-haired man asked, "Hey, don't you know your own son?" The long-haired man's sharp gaze at Junwoo recognized that, as soon as Junwoo saw an opportunity, he'd pounced like a wild animal. Someone in the gang asked, "Come to think of it, what happened with that old incident? Did you catch them yet?" Another replied, "That was a long time ago." From behind a slightly ajar door, Junwoo silently listened to their conversation. The door creaked softly as Junwoo continued to eavesdrop on the men's conversation. Inside the bathroom, water flowed from the tap into the sink. Junwoo stood before the bathroom mirror, realizing the truth with slow, dawning horror. It's just as I thought. What I heard was also something we did in the past. I've been thinking about it non-stop these past few days. A clear realization dawned as the words, "I've returned to the past," echoed in his head, looking at his younger self. He gradually accepted the unbelievable truth. 35 years lived, and now he's back as a middle school student. Junwoo acknowledged that both his past life and his current one were real, and because he had returned to the past, he determined he couldn't relive his old life, but immediately a new problem arose. The long-haired man entered the bathroom calling out, "Han Junwoo!" He handed Junwoo a document, explaining it was the work schedule for next week. As Junwoo took it, the man said this was a crucial mission, and he trusted Junwoo could handle it himself. Then he added gravely, "It's also very dangerous." Junwoo's gaze focused intently as the man emphasized this was an even more important mission. He continued, "Very dangerous, be extremely careful." With a cold, sharp gaze, the man asserted, "None of the jobs we do are without danger." Junwoo observed silently, thinking, "Indeed, that's Jang Jun-gun for you." He remembered that Jang Jun-gun always prepared an escape route if things went sour. Seeing the plan included a boat near Cheonsanpil port for Jang Jun-gun, and moreover, in his mind, Junwoo listed Kim Kwang-soo, Lee Si, and Go In-nam. All tough guys then thought, but I'm not. Junwoo calmly reviewed the document Jang Jun-gun handed him in the bathroom. Jang Jun-gun looked at him knowingly, asking, "Are you scared now?" Junwoo replied with a slight smile, as if I'm not always okay. He thought, this time, just because the school principal is involved, I have to go to school. An image of the principal appeared on the whiteboard. Jang Jun-gun warned, "Don't show your face on the streets too much. Don't make unnecessary friends." Standing by the bathroom door, Jang Jun-gun emphasized one last time, "Remember, only we will take you in." Junwoo recalled, "In my previous life, I orchestrated so many operations to perfection." He continued, "No operation failed under my hand." The image shows him holding a mask against a backdrop of successful deceptions. If anything failed. The narration concluded, it was because of the father's greed. An image of Jang Jun-gun as if controlling Junwoo, who thought they had brainwashed him for their own benefit. Junwoo thought, maybe this is why they don't want me exposed, seeing me only as a source of money. Flashback shows a very young Junwoo sitting alone in a dark room watching TV. He realized they were also afraid he had other intentions and wanted to escape. But Junwoo remembered one person truly cared. Go In-nam had once said he didn't have to follow that path and could quit any time. In his memory, a young angry Junwoo clutched his coat asking, "Go In-nam, I said I don't want to. Why do you keep saying that?" He continued, "I like this job, why don't you let me do what I want?" Go In-nam looked at him sadly. Young Junwoo cried, asking, "Do you hate me, Dad?" While Go In-nam bowed his head sorrowfully. The older Junwoo, moving away from Go In-nam in a white void, narrated, "Back then, I didn't understand. Looking at Go In-nam's distant figure, he now understood. Dad said that to protect me." In a coffee shop, Go In-nam suggested to Junwoo that there were many other paths in life, like being an office worker or a consultant, relying on his son's eloquence. Go In-nam excitedly proposed, "That's right, why not try being an actor?" He smiled brightly. "You like acting, don't you?" Junwoo smiled faintly to himself, thinking, "That's right, I'd never thought of that before." Go In-nam called out loudly, "Son!" as Junwoo stood at the bathroom door holding a paper near a pot of boiling anchovy broth. Seeing Junwoo's attitude, Go In-nam cheerfully asked, "You seem sad, want to go eat some meat?" Beside the boiling anchovy broth, Go In-nam laughed. "Ha ha, you finally understand the beauty of anchovy broth," he said to Junwoo, sitting opposite him at the dining table. "You used to hate this dish." Junwoo bowed his head in thought, his deep blue eyes looking down at the table. Go In-nam put down his chopsticks and spoon, gently urging, "Go on, son. Is there something you want to say?" Close up on Junwoo's jaw and school uniform collar as he seriously considered his father's words. Junwoo called Go In-nam Dad, and Go In-nam replied, "Yes." With a serious expression, Junwoo declared, "I'm going to die." In a large area resembling an airport or station, a coach shouted, demanding all students form 3 lines, specifically calling out, "Second years, assemble! Where are the third years?" Students milled about, holding training sticks. With a look of annoyance, the coach muttered, "Tsk, the first day of the field trip and this is the weather," his face grimacing at the gloomy rain pouring down. Still holding the stick, he turned and called out loudly, "Han Junwoo, aren't you going to join the group?" Seeing him standing alone, away from the other students. Junwoo turned his head, his face showing a hint of alertness, replying, "Yes, I'm coming." The coach now faced Junwoo directly, who was looking down at his phone, asking, "Are all the second years present?" Then reminded, "Remember, even when we arrive, you still have to listen to the instructor." Close-up of Junwoo's phone screen displaying a message from his father. Take care of yourself. Have a fun trip. Junwoo looked down at the screen with a slight smile, his expression briefly thoughtful. The coach urged, come on, it's time to board the bus, adding, when we arrive, we'll still be in 3 lines like now. A bus appeared, parked on the road near the airport station. Heavy rain poured down on a complex situated by the water, creating a gloomy and somber atmosphere. Inside, a simple door with a digital lock appeared, implying this area was private or restricted. A man sat on a sofa scratching his head, muttering, honestly, these students are always trouble when they come. Then sighed. But he leaned over to look into a cardboard box, a calculating smile on his face. This is the part that makes it worthwhile. In the box were several bottles of alcohol, making him smirk. Ha, they don't even know how to drink yet, and they're already asking for the best stuff. Smirking sinisterly, he muttered, should I drink with Teacher Aoyi today? Or maybe it's been a while since I saw Teacher Hyang Soo. That'd be nice too. Suddenly a loud noise from the door startled him, and he whipped around as a figure appeared in the doorway. He looked up, sweat beading on his temple, his expression tinged with panic. Han Junwoo stood there, his eyes annoyed, uttering with exasperation, damn it, this is so annoying, then angrily asked, who are you to barge in here? The man stammered, pointing at Junwoo. You. But Junwoo scoffed. Dare to say you in front of your superior? The homeroom teacher told you to get lost, didn't he? Han Junwoo growled, his face irritated. I don't want to sleep with the other students. I just came in here to take a nap. Angered by the dismissive attitude, the man advanced, shouting, what did you just say? What's your name? What class are you in? He grabbed Junwoo's collar, threatening, you want me to call your homeroom teacher to teach you a lesson? While Junwoo just smirked. Ha! Close up on his face, teeth grinding in anger, eyes full of hatred. You bastard! He screamed, then shoved Junwoo hard to the floor. Junwoo's name tag flew off. Lying there, Junwoo angrily thought, you dare touch me with your filthy hands. The man flinched slightly, looking down while Junwoo calmly asked, you said you'd call the teacher, right? A bead of sweat rolled down the man's temple, his eyes wide. Junwoo calmly asked, do you think the teacher would dare to come? His mind, a recent scene flashed. Junwoo's father and uncles had beaten him pulp, making him even more panicked. Wah, who is this kid? Junwoo revealed a tattoo on his shoulder, his eyes defiantly looking straight at him. Go on, call them, damn it. The man looked down at Junwoo, his mind reeling. What kind of middle schooler has a tattoo? Is his family really mafia? Junwoo lay on the floor, the corner of his mouth curving into a slight, sarcastic smile. Now comfortably seated on the sofa next to the box of alcohol, Junwoo advised, stop putting on a show. Either go call the teacher or get lost. The man stammered, I don't know your name yet, but I'll find out from the second-year homeroom teacher, you bastard, hissing, you scum. He stormed out angrily, shouting, just you wait, while Junwoo calmly watched him go, saying nothing. His face emotionless, Junwoo thought to himself, easier than I thought. He sat cross-legged on the chair, next to the open box. Han Junwoo's name tag clearly visible to the camera. An all-knowing smile flickered across his face. Inside and around the box were several soju bottles and many open cigarette packs. The man walked with another person, complaining, that Junwoo kid isn't the troublemaker type. In class, he's quiet as a mouse. He continued, I swear he said his dad was in the gangster world and he even has a tattoo. The other person countered, if that were true, we would have known during vocational skills class. Let's go check the duty room. They burst into the room, the one previously taunted by Junwoo shouting, Han Junwoo! But the room was empty, only alcohol and cigarettes laid out on the table. One asked, where is he? The other sniffed and suspiciously asked, this smell of alcohol. Did someone drink in the room? The first man frantically denied, no, I didn't touch any alcohol. Then pointed, there, right there. It still bore clear traces of recent presence. Alcohol, cigarettes, and beer cans. A close-up shows an open pack of cigarettes and several still condensing beer cans on the coffee table. The second person tried to de-escalate. I know, teacher, I know you didn't drink. But the other coach was still angry. Nitromonosodium, seriously. Likely a made-up curse or misheard. The coach looked out the window, his eyes reflected in the rain-streaked glass, glinting with unease. The other person said, "For now, let's just go find him." The sound of heavy rain continued on the roof. Han Junwoo stood alone, turning his head to look amidst the downpour, silent in the empty hallway. A distant shot shows him as a solitary glowing figure, standing on a high cliff overlooking a vast, angrily roaring sea. Junwoo looked up at the sky, rain pouring down as if passing through him, dim light reflecting from the gray sea, highlighting his solitary figure amidst the storm. A white text stands out against the backdrop of cliffs over the bay and crashing waves below, like a final conclusion. The play we prepared ends here. This is the final act. Standing silently on the precipice, Han Junwoo gently closed his eyes, thinking to himself, "I thought I would feel relieved." Close-up of his red sneaker right at the edge of the cliff, accompanied by the thought, "But even if it's a lie, standing before the end still stirs a strange feeling in my heart." Interwoven, overlapping film clips appear on screen, like a dreamlike recollection. As Junwoo muses, "I used to believe I was living in a movie, but looking back, I was just a mediocre swindler and a criminal." His silhouette walks on a glowing film strip, back to the viewer. His inner voice says, "If I stay here, I'll just repeat my old life." Han Junwoo's 35 years of life officially end today. A hand tilts a dark liquor bottle. A single drop falls slowly from its mouth, heavy with resignation. Junwoo stood in the cold rain, eyes shut tight, his mind echoing, "Today is indeed a perfect day to die." A tear unexpectedly rolled down his cheek. Then suddenly a shout rang out, "Found you!" Amidst the pouring rain, two men holding umbrellas were horrified to see Junwoo standing on the cliff. One shouted, "Han Junwoo, what the hell are you doing there?" Junwoo bowed his head, his eyes dark, a single tear silently falling. One of the two men quickly shone a flashlight and rushed towards the cliff, shouting as he ran, "Get down! It's dangerous there." An overhead view shows Junwoo standing on the cliff edge, the two men rushing towards him in panic. Junwoo sighed softly, telling himself, "Enough. Everything should end here." The red sneaker took another step closer to the precipice. The two men watched in horror as Junwoo spread his arms wide, as if to sever all ties with his fathers. Junwoo falls from the cliff, his body like slipping from an old film reel. A narrator's voice sounds from outside a school. A hand reaches out to touch the spiraling film strip, as if yearning to escape the past, where he lived as a terrible person. In front of the schoolyard, someone angrily shouted, "Ran off again, those pieces of trash," then muttered, "And they doubled the performance fee saying they came from afar." In the hallway, a man asked his colleague, "There are only 5 hours left until the show. What do we do now?" The other coldly replied, "What else? Refund the tickets first, then check accommodation and travel expenses. Send it all to me." The man in the red plaid shirt growled, "This time we absolutely must sue for compensation," but then sighed, Forget it. How much money can actors from such a small stage have?" As he walked away, he instructed, "Check customer information. Send apology messages to everyone. Keep it short. Don't explain too much." The remaining man scratched his head, thinking, "My director is too kind." Close up on the director's face, he mused, "They say in business you have to trust people, damn it." The other still thought, "Besides that, he really is a good person." The narrator's voice, "I am Ju Man-sik, a former National Assembly member just 5 years ago. At 45, I was recognized and my career was soaring. But perhaps that itself became the beginning of my downfall." A flashback shows him at a podium. He recalled, "Too many people surrounded me just to profit," illustrated by two people with gleaming eyes, one holding a briefcase overflowing with cash. "Even those I once trusted eventually betrayed me." An image of him alone under the spotlight, amidst the scheming whispers of two shadowy figures. By the time I realized. Newspapers appear. Assemblyman Man-sik involved in bribery scandal, and Assemblyman Ju Man-sik accused of fraud. He continued, "What remained were only fabricated accusations, and an overwhelming sense of loneliness as everyone turned their backs on me. The only path left was to leave the corrupt world of politics. His first attempt at a new career was opening a small theater. An image of him wiping sweat, his hand bloodied, hinting at past wounds. But 5 years later, running the theater turned out to be anything but easy. Initially, the theater did quite well, attracting audiences despite being in a rural area and having a modest space. Their strategy was to recruit young actors who hadn't had a chance to shine, instead of choosing famous stars. He understood well, an actor's name is the first thing that draws an audience. A newspaper headline read, "Famous actor guarantees box office success for Nemo Theater." But the true quality of a play doesn't lie in fame. Empty seats reflected silence and depth. More important was how well they embodied their roles and how deeply they could move people. That's why he persistently pursued undiscovered raw talents, like a scene of an actor giving his all on stage. Thanks to this, Zen Theater became known as a place for discovering hidden talent, but that success didn't last long either. Those young actors, even if they turned their backs, always had their eyes set on Seoul where dreams take flight. So every time they became famous, they would leave the theater to join big companies in Seoul. This was the third time something like this had happened, making Ju Man-sik sigh and wonder, is it my fault or the world's? Walking through the theater hallway, he heard a strange sound coming from a stage door. He guessed he must have forgotten to turn off the stage equipment before talking to the assistant director earlier. Peeking through the crack in the door, he cautiously wondered what was happening inside. In the empty theater, a teenager sat alone in silence, intently watching the brightly lit stage. Ju Man-sik recognized the figure, thinking, "It's that kid again. He's been hanging around here a lot lately. Looks like a high school student at first glance." He observed the boy wearing a work uniform that seemed unfitting for his age. Though he didn't know who the boy was, he remembered that every time after watching, the boy would leave a few bills as payment. Leaning against the ticket counter, Ju Man-sik muttered, "A tiny theater like mine doesn't even have regular patrons. This kid might be the only one." Stepping inside, he approached and asked, "What's your name?" The boy sitting still in his seat replied curtly, "A name? I don't have one." Ju Man-sik looked at him thinking, maybe he doesn't want to say his real name. His expression tightened with annoyance. Even Udung, the neighborhood dog, has a name. He asked further, "You look like a high school student. How old are you? Are you still in school?" The boy stood up replying, "I'm 17, but I don't go to school." The boy faced Ju Man-sik, then bowed his head in apology, explaining that since no one said anything, he thought he was allowed to watch. As the boy turned to leave, Ju Man-sik unexpectedly called out, "Hey, what?" Then asked if the boy thought he was scolding him, trying to explain that wasn't his intention. The boy paused, turning his head as if he just realized something, then simply replied, "Yes." Then he pulled out a folded bill and offered it to Ju Man-sik. The man looked at the bill and asked, "What's this?" The boy said, "I really enjoyed it today too," then brought the money closer. "It's just a shame it was cut short." Ju Man-sik exclaimed in surprise, "Hey, when did I ever ask you for money?" He immediately reached out and grabbed the boy's wrist. His expression gradually shifted to concern. Staring at the boy's wrist, Ju Man-sik asked anxiously, "Your wrist, is it injured?" The boy gently replied, "It's nothing. I'll go home, put on a pain relief patch and sleep it off. It'll be fine." Ju Man-sik looked down at the boy's hand, still unable to hide his concern. The boy added, "But thank you for worrying about me." He looked up at Ju Man-sik with a calm, unreadable gaze. Turning away, he announced, "I'm leaving now." Ju Man-sik immediately called after him, "Hey, wait, are you only interested in the performance?" Causing the boy to turn back, his gaze questioning. Flustered, Ju Man-sik stammered, "There are many recordings and scripts inside," then mumbled, Scratching his head, Ju Man-sik worried he looked like a pervert luring a child with candy, while the boy stood right at the door. The boy looked back, his expression puzzled, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. Ju Man-sik then suggested, "Come in, I'll put some medicine on it for you, then you can go." The boy hesitated for a moment, his hand on the doorknob. Before stepping in completely, he glanced back with a serious, thoughtful look. Later at a diner, Ju Man-sik muttered, "I thought you were just going to ignore me and leave." He looked at the boy eating, remarking, "You seem really hungry, huh?" Sitting across from him at the table, Ju Man-sik said, "You remind me of someone," then asked, "Why are you doing that kind of work? And this food is really bland." While eating, the boy replied, "Everyone has their own circumstances." Ju Man-sik, closely observing the boy's young, handsome face, suggested, "With a face like yours, there are many better jobs out there." The boy continued to eat, his expression unreadable. Ju Man-sik held up a stack of papers, asking, "What's this?" While the boy was mid-chew, he looked up and asked, "Huh?" He held up a rolled-up script titled A Chance Encounter, explaining, "Huh? This?" He said it was a script he had just received, as Ju Man-sik stared intently at the title. Ju Man-sik seemed interested, suggesting, "Let me take a look," and gestured for the boy to hand over the papers. The boy, Ju Man-sik, took it, opened it, and read, thinking to himself, "So this is a script." Corrected. Ju Man-sik is reading. A page from the script appeared with dialogue. "Ji-hyung, in your life, are you attracted to kind, easy-to-talk-to people or taller people?" And a stage note, "Seen while walking to school together, Ji-hyung, Hee-ju, and Yui-jin ask each other about their ideal types." Ju Man-sik observed him, the boy, reading. He, the boy, hummed softly. He, the boy, continued flipping pages, eyes still glued to the script, while Ju Man-sik watched him intently. As he, the boy, flipped to the next page, Ju Man-sik's expression flickered, a mix of surprise and focus. Suddenly, Ju Man-sik snatched the script, declaring, "That's enough." He said, "This hasn't been announced yet. I can't let you see all of it." Silently, he thought, "I figured, what would a country bumpkin kid know?" Ju Man-sik silently admitted he'd been too impulsive in showing the script, and upon seeing the boy too engrossed, hastily took it back. He wondered if he was being too careless, while the boy, still holding A Chance Encounter, politely said, "Thank you for letting me take a look." Feeling let down by the indifferent reaction, Ju Man-sik pressed, "You only saw a little bit, but what do you think? Do you think it will be a success?" The boy humbly replied, "I don't know. I don't really know much about these things," prompting Ju Man-sik to defend the script. "I poured my heart and soul into that. The writer is an extremely meticulous perfectionist. Every word has meaning, not a single redundant sentence." After a moment of silence from the boy, Ju Man-sik asked, "Are you not interested because it's a romance play?" The boy shook his head. "That's not it. I'm just not sure if this play is suitable for your theater." Ju Man-sik asked in surprise, "My theater, what do you mean?" The boy pointed to the first page of the script, the second line on the first page. Repeating the boy's words, "The second line on the first page, huh?" Ju Man-sik flipped through the pages to find the passage. He read aloud the stage directions and dialogue. The characters appear with umbrellas, chatting about their ideal types as they walk, then muttered a comment, "This girl really has no taste." Reading on to the description of another character appearing and her friend pointing, "There's your boyfriend." Ju Man-sik's eyes gradually widened as if understanding something. "Wait, this kid." Ju Man-sik stared incredulously, asking. He remembered all of it, muttering, "What is this?" While still eating, the boy began to recite a long passage from the script, describing Kyung-soo appearing from behind an umbrella, startling the other characters. Ju Man-sik thought, "This kid, he hasn't even read it for a minute, yet he's quoting every line, every emotion accurately." Kyung-soo slowly raises his umbrella. The other person is startled. Looking at the boy calmly eating, Ju Man-sik silently realized, less than a minute, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. Still puzzled, Ju Man-sik wondered, "But what does this have to do with my theater?" At that, the boy pointed to the part of the script with the scene where characters meet under an umbrella. Ju Man-sik nodded in response with a soft, The boy astutely pointed out that if 3 characters were walking and talking, they'd need about 20 steps to deliver all their lines, while Ju Man-sik's stage was only 13 steps wide. Gesturing with his hands, he explained that the umbrellas would obscure the characters in shadow. even with good lighting, and the main character's dramatic entrance would also be hidden. To fix this, he suggested changing the setting from a school walk to a bus stop. This would allow the characters to stand still without cutting dialogue. Ju Man-sik listened attentively. The boy continued analyzing. While they're talking, the other person appears holding an umbrella, then angles the umbrella towards the audience, temporarily obscuring the character, thus creating a sense of curiosity. As he spoke, he took a bite of food, concluding that ultimately, that scene has to be really dramatic for the audience. Ju Man-sik looked flustered, trying to dismiss what he'd just heard, stammering, "Just ignore me," then added, "I just thought it was a bit too much work." The boy continued eating nonchalantly, seemingly unaffected by Ju Man-sik's reaction. Ju Man-sik pushed the script back towards the eating boy, asking, "Want to continue?" When the boy asked, "Continue what?" Ju Man-sik explained, "I mean what you were just saying. I want to hear more about the other parts too." The boy paused, put down his spoon, and took the script from Ju Man-sik. He began to flip through the script pages once more. Ju Man-sik watched him intently, chin resting on his hand, his eyes full of thought. Close-up of Ju Man-sik's mouth with his inner monologue. The things this kid is saying are truly shocking. Ju Man-sik mentally listed the elements the boy had considered. Stage layout, movement paths, audience perspectives, actor positioning. He continued to ponder how the boy could grasp even the timing for adjusting lighting brightness while they were sitting in the restaurant. The boy, holding the script, even considered the color temperature of the lights, a lamp's placement, and even the pauses and breaths between lines of dialogue. Ju Man-sik realized that even details that a whole team of experts would struggle to analyze fully. This boy had addressed them all. A bead of sweat rolled down Ju Man-sik's temple as he gradually understood the depth of the boy's thinking. He felt astonished that all those complex elements were being perfectly tailored for his own stage, just from a child's words. The script titled "A Chance Encounter" was pushed back towards the boy. Stunned, Ju Man-sik opened his mouth and said, "You." Then he asked, "When did you start studying directing? It looks like you've had formal training from a theater troupe. You watch videos at the theater to design storyboards, right?" The boy only replied with a surprised, "Huh?" Ju Man-sik asked further, "Are you currently doing something related to that?" The boy, somewhat flustered, replied, I'm sorry." He confessed, "Actually, I only saw a play for the first time here recently." Ju Man-sik was speechless, eyes tearing up in disbelief. The boy added, "Initially, I intended to watch a movie, but there are no cinemas here." Ju Man-sik asked again, "So this is your first time seeing a play?" Close-up of Ju Man-sik's hand trembling slightly as he tried to process the information he'd just heard. He thought to himself, "I met this kid about 3 weeks ago. This means a kid who just started high school, or middle school, context is around 17 but not in school yet, grasped the entire feel of the stage in just 3 weeks." He covered his mouth, lips trembling. A play isn't just about the actor's performance. 2 actors are performing on stage. Ju Man-sik's monologue continues. Ordinary people just think it's simply acting. Another scene shows actors in a dramatic pose with the narration. But in reality, it's much more than that. Words like writer, art, music, lighting, director appear on screen, along with a backstage scene where the technical crew is working hard, illustrating a composite art form of many professional disciplines. Looking at the boy sitting across the table, Ju Man-sik thought, and yet this kid, just by skimming the script, handled all those elements by himself. He continued to recall, he's only been watching plays for 3 weeks, while the boy ate nonchalantly. He wondered again, if it's true that 3 weeks ago was his first time watching a play, then what about rewriting the dialogue? The boy paused his chopsticks mid-air, spoon still hovering before his mouth, looking up slightly startled. Ju Man-sik held the script saying, "Then let's try to reconstruct it based on what you said." Internally, he began to hope, I want to see a little more, not just about stage production, but also if he can provide answers about roles and acting. The boy crossed his arms, thought for a moment, then said, "Can't do it. I don't know who the actors are." Ju Man-sik internally conceded, Yeah, that's a bit much. Writing dialogue and directing are two different things. While he was still thinking, the boy, stirring his food, spoke up. It's not because of that. He clarified, you have to observe a person's life to understand them, even the habits they can't hide with acting or the stiffness in their facial muscles. He concluded, without knowing those things, it can't be done. Each person also pronounces words with different vibrations and pitches. Jumansik exclaimed in his mind, he's not a machine. Then wondered, how can a human being pay attention to all those details? But then he had to admit, but it's true. The boy softly said, I know that, while Jumansik whispered internally, I'm just trying to deny it because the truth is too hard to accept. The boy looked at Jumansik saying, try smiling in front of a mirror. He continued his observation. The corners of your lips will stretch a bit without you realizing. It's very suitable for playing the role of a murderer. Jumansik was stunned by the comment, only managing, what? The boy calmly replied, just kidding, then stood up, a slight smile on his face. Jumansik touched his chin, thinking, not only good at stagecraft and directing, this kid is truly... The boy, now standing, asked, not going? Then continued, then I'll go first. As he left, he said, thanks for the meal, leaving Jumansik sitting stunned at the table, completely dumbfounded. Jumansik burst out laughing, admitting he felt as if he'd just been bewitched. He wondered where that kid came from, his mind still full of unanswered questions. But then he thought, I'll probably see him again tomorrow. Scene changes to a construction site, where a voice calls from off-screen, hey kid, who else is there? In an office-like room, Junwoo declared, I'm here to collect my money. Another unseen person asked back, did we ever leave money with you? Junwoo held out his hand, confidently replying, oh, you did. The other person, stunned, yelled, what? What did you just say? Standing before two men, Junwoo repeated, you said you'd pay later. Now I want to receive the exact amount of 587,001. One of the two angrily called him an insolent brat, while the other smirked behind him. Pay later means never, kid. You're too young to understand this world. Junwoo calmly asked, so you're not going to pay me that money? The aggressive one snapped, of course not, kid. I don't have that kind of money. Junwoo sighed, accepting the fact that he wouldn't be paid. He thought, I've let this slide a few times to avoid trouble, but this time I gave them one last chance. A flashback shows an envelope of money being exchanged, the narration explaining they often made excuses to evade payment, citing economic hardship or that it happened frequently to workers. Junwoo, holding a glass of water, wondered, do they know who they're messing with? He understood they thought he wouldn't dare resist because he was young and an orphan. Furthermore, Junwoo was convinced they were also skimming wages from other workers. A flashback showed one of them gleefully counting money. He had observed how they easily manipulated and ignored other laborers, realizing it was their usual way of doing business. However, a practical concern flashed in Junwoo's mind. But where can I find another job now? His expression hardened, eyes fixed on the two men, only one phrase in his mind. Damn it, those bastards. Just then, another man burst into the office, angrily shouting, you dare cut my wages! Meanwhile, in the empty theater, Jumansik sat alone thinking, why hasn't that kid come today? Arms crossed, Jumansik sighed. He's usually here by now. Suddenly, a voice called out, boss. Jumansik's employee suggested, how about we try checking the construction site? An employee approached, and Jumansik immediately asked, where could a 17-year-old be? The employee replied, probably at school, sir. But Jumansik shook his head. No, he doesn't go to school. He works at a construction site. The employee repeated, then he must be at the construction site. Jumansik, still in his theater seat, didn't quite understand. What are you talking about? The employee reiterated, boss, you just said the kid works at a construction site, so he's probably there. Jumansik, as if jolted awake, shouted, that's right, and immediately rushed off. The employee hurriedly called after him, huh? Wait, boss, you have a meeting. Jumansik ran through the rain, berating himself. Right, why didn't I think of it sooner? He said he works at a construction site, so he must be there. He panted, sweat mixed with rain, clearly trying his best to run as fast as possible. Arriving in front of a multi-story construction site, Ju Man-sik wondered, is this the place? He approached a temporary container office from which a jumble of voices could be heard. Ju Man-sik gently pushed the door open a little, peeking inside. Then he kicked the door wide open, angrily yelling, "What, you're shortchanging wages?" Inside, Junwoo stood calmly, one foreman pinned to a desk, the other stunned. "Sir, you're not allowed in here." Ju Man-sik exploded at them. "Got nothing better to do than cheat a kid, aren't you ashamed?" Then he kicked over the table, roaring, "You scumbags!" One man shrieked, "Ah, sir, what are you doing?" Junwoo touched his forehead, calmly stating, "I'm reporting all of you to the Labor Department." Ju Man-sik turned to Junwoo, angrily asking, "What are you still standing there for?" He pulled Junwoo's arm. "Let's go. Why waste time with this trash?" A foreman on the ground groaned, "Ugh, my money." Scene changes to outside a modern building, the sky clear and blue. Junwoo stood outside, his expression annoyed, thinking, "Damn it." Inside the office, Ju Man-sik asked, "Why do you keep putting up with this stuff? Why get so angry?" He continued, "Aren't you angry too? You should be paid properly. I'll report them to the police and have them all arrested, okay?" Junwoo calmly asked back, "Why would you do that?" Ju Man-sik leaned back in his chair, wiping sweat. "When an adult helps, you should be grateful. Don't talk back." Ju Man-sik's eyes glinted with determination, as if an idea had just struck him. He looked at Junwoo, noticing his bandaged wrist resting lightly on his thigh as he sat silently. Then Ju Man-sik said firmly, "Don't do that kind of work anymore. Come work here." A bead of sweat rolled down Ju Man-sik's temple. He let out a small, "Ah," as if suddenly realizing the implication of his offer. He scrolled through his phone, muttering, "Come to think of it, how much did I lose last month?" Junwoo sat on the chair, listening quietly. Ju Man-sik looked up from his phone, asking directly, "Well," he explained, "working here you can watch plays freely, isn't that good?" Junwoo looked straight at him, asking a simple question, "Why are you helping me?" Ju Man-sik turned away, quickly saying, "Who's helping whom? It just so happens we're short-staffed for part-timers." Junwoo asked directly, "Do you pay well? Seeing you stressed all day, you probably don't have much money." Ju Man-sik clutched his chest, looking flustered. Ju Man-sik sweated, asking back, "What? You think I'd cheat you out of your wages too?" Junwoo nodded, replying curtly, "Yes," making Ju Man-sik silently fume. "This kid." Ju Man-sik then said decisively, "Even if I have to work at the construction site in your place, I will ensure you get paid." A determined expression was clear on Ju Man-sik's face as yesterday's memory flooded back. A close-up of Ju Man-sik's eyes revealed steely resolve. Ju Man-sik recalled their previous conversation, thinking, "I don't remember everything that kid said, nor can I prove anything, but the feeling from that moment is still vivid." A close-up of Ju Man-sik's eyes again affirmed, "I can't let a kid like that work at a construction site." While Junwoo sat alone in the gentle light, Ju Man-sik's thoughts continued. Everyone has a place to belong. Honestly, keeping him now is a loss for me, but I still want him by my side. Junwoo looked up, his bright blue eyes meeting Ju Man-sik's, silently accepting the offer. Back in the present, Ju Man-sik, sitting in his office, suddenly asked, "Oh, about what you said earlier." Junwoo, sitting on the sofa with his hands clasped, gently asked if part-timers were allowed to watch plays. The sun sets behind the theater building where Ju Man-sik is now employing Junwoo. Inside, Ju Man-sik stood by a pillar, his expression clearly impatient. He wondered, why hasn't Junwoo come out yet? A bead of sweat rolled down Ju Man-sik's temple, as he considered that Junwoo might be more meticulous than he thought. He remembered it had been a week since Junwoo started working there, and today he had only asked him to tidy up the slightly messy basement practice room. Ju Man-sik grew increasingly impatient, as 3 hours had passed since he assigned the task to Junwoo. An angry vein throbbed on Ju Man-sik's forehead as his irritation mounted. Walking down the stairs, Ju Man-sik thought, could he have OCD? But even so, cleaning shouldn't take more than an hour. I was even planning to have dinner with him. Nearing the practice room area, Ju Man-sik called out, "Hey, how much longer are you going to take?" But as he entered, Ju Man-sik froze, surprised, asking, "You, what is all this?" Seeing Junwoo sitting amidst a pile of neatly arranged scripts and equipment, Junwoo looked up, pointed towards a bookshelf, and began to explain. That it fell over, referring to the shelf that once held the scripts. Ju Man-sik saw the scripts scattered on the floor in front of the bookshelf and immediately pictured what had happened. He guessed that while cleaning, the bookshelf toppled, sending scripts flying, and in that moment Junwoo got engrossed, making Ju Man-sik chuckle softly. However, his eyes were drawn to a neatly stacked pile of scripts on a small wooden chair next to a decorative cabinet. Glancing around the room cluttered with props like fake roses and a director's chair, Ju Man-sik asked Junwoo what he was doing. Junwoo, holding a script, explained, "I just wanted to read it once." When Ju Man-sik confirmed, Read the script?" Junwoo nodded. "Yes, I was just reading it with my eyes." Pointing to the scripts on the table and looking around the room, Ju Man-sik wondered why he wasn't just reading and suspected he was rehearsing by himself. Ju Man-sik's gaze fell on the script Junwoo was holding. The words "The Seagull" printed on it made him ask, "A Russian play?" He wondered why he chose that one when there were dozens of Korean scripts, but Junwoo replied, "I've already read all those other ones," leaving Ju Man-sik utterly surprised. "What?" Pointing to himself in utter amazement, Ju Man-sik seemed to want confirmation. "You said you've read?" Junwoo nodded. "I've read them all." A close-up of Ju Man-sik's face showed deep astonishment as Junwoo added, "I've read all the ones I neatly arranged earlier." A strange purple light enveloped Ju Man-sik as he asked incredulously, "Really? You've read all the scripts on that bookshelf?" Then he connected this to Junwoo reading a Russian script amidst a messy pile of papers on the table. Ju Man-sik, still curious, asked further, "Do you know Russian?" Junwoo, holding the script with one hand, pointed to the shelf with the other, replying, "Oshis nitrish, that one." Likely mispronounced Russian words or gibberish indicating a dictionary. Ju Man-sik followed Junwoo's finger to a book on the shelf and asked, "Is that a Korean dictionary?" Likely Korean-Russian dictionary implied. While Ju Man-sik was still skeptical, saying a dictionary could only help with a few words, Junwoo explained, "I looked up a few words. I roughly understand it." Ju Man-sik's eyes widened in astonishment, exclaiming, "What?" and silently wondered, "What the hell is this?" Looking at Junwoo standing amidst the neatly organized scripts, Ju Man-sik wondered if the kid had really arranged everything just by vaguely understanding a few words. Ju Man-sik's gaze lingered on the open pages of The Seagull that Junwoo was holding. He silently recalled, "I've also pored over that script countless times before." Ju Man-sik realized the scene Junwoo was reading was the moment just before the character explodes in anger, smashing everything in the room. Looking at the scattered props, he understood they weren't placed randomly. He was amazed to realize Junwoo had arranged everything according to the character's emotions in that scene. Ju Man-sik was truly surprised at how the kid had fully expressed the character's emotions just by arranging items like a clock, a calligraphy brush, and an inkstone. However, immediately after, Ju Man-sik also criticized internally, "This kid doesn't even know basic terminology, yet he chose a classic play he barely understands." Looking at the pensive Junwoo, Ju Man-sik directly asked, "What do you ultimately want to become?" Ju Man-sik continued, "Why are you always silent when I'm here? What dream are you pursuing? Stage manager? Director?" Junwoo sat silently on the chair while Ju Man-sik urged, "Come on, now's the time to tell me." Finally, Junwoo replied, "My dream is just to live like this the way I am now," stunning Ju Man-sik into exclaiming, "Like this?" Pointing around the room filled with scripts and props, Ju Man-sik asked, "So what is all this for?" While Junwoo remained silent, not answering. Junwoo explained that he was simply preparing the stage before the performance began, making Ju Man-sik repeat in his mind, "Preparing the stage?" Observing, Ju Man-sik realized Junwoo wasn't denying it. Ju Man-sik asked if Junwoo intended to rehearse, but he just remained silent, eyes downcast, saying nothing. Seeing Junwoo didn't deny it, Ju Man-sik scratched his head, muttering to himself that he wasn't refuting it. Behind him was a promotional poster for the play Illegal. Ju Man-sik scratched his head, realizing Junwoo might also be interested in acting, something he previously thought the boy was only passionate about directing. A flashback shows Junwoo standing in the audience, holding a broom, intently watching a play unfold on stage. Ju Man-sik commented that from what he'd seen, Junwoo was better suited to be a director than an actor, and wondered if preparing so many props for just one scene was really necessary. Junwoo, his blue eyes shining with serious intensity, replied that not a single item was placed there randomly. He elaborated, "Everything on stage has a clear purpose." Close-up of meticulously arranged script pages before a clock and a pen, set against a backdrop of a city glittering with neon lights. Ju Man-sik somewhat dismissed it, arguing it was just an excuse because good actors don't need to be so elaborate. With a sharp, cold gaze, Junwoo concluded, "That's precisely why they need the stage." Ju Man-sik gestured with his hand, asking Junwoo again, "What does the stage have to do with acting?" Junwoo turned away, looking at the elaborately decorated table, explaining that every part of the stage, from actors to props, must work in harmony. Hand on the script, Junwoo emphasized that harmony was only part of it. What he yearned for was to transform the stage into a perfect whole. Ju Man-sik stood there, one hand on his chin, observing Junwoo, who was looking towards him. Junwoo, after a pause, looked directly at Ju Man-sik. He declared he would prove it right there, stepping towards the table, making Ju Man-sik exclaim in surprise. "What?" Close-up of Junwoo's hand pressing down hard on the script and papers on the table. Leaning over the table, Junwoo emanated an intense purple aura, all attention focused on the script and surrounding props. Ju Man-sik stood by, observing with a serious expression as Junwoo began to get into character. A dramatic shot shows Junwoo's hand covering his face. Next, a stage transition effect, ending with a close-up of Ju Man-sik's eyes wide with astonishment. In that instant, Ju Man-sik understood. He wasn't just getting into character. That contorted face was the expression of someone cornered, with no escape. He realized Junwoo wasn't just reciting lines amidst props. He had truly transformed into a completely different person. Ju Man-sik was stunned, not understanding how Junwoo could do it, especially as his eyes were bloodshot, broken blood vessels clearly visible. It was a physical reaction impossible to fake, making Ju Man-sik wonder if achieving such deep immersion in an instant was even possible. Junwoo, now fully transformed, slammed his hand on the table, screaming in agony. "What is the meaning of all this?" He trembled, collapsing heavily onto the table, surrounded by chaotic scripts and props. Junwoo staggered around the table, unsteady on his feet. One deliberate step of his kicked the nearby wall. Under his foot, the clock lying on the floor was crushed. Suddenly, Junwoo swung his leg powerfully, kicking away the surrounding props. Ju Man-sik yelled in alarm, "That's dangerous," realizing there were too many objects hindering Junwoo's movements. Ju Man-sik's eyes widened as he saw Junwoo's hand unexpectedly reach behind him. He grabbed the back of the chair beside him. With a staggering step, Junwoo leaned heavily against the chair as if about to collapse. Finally, he slumped into the chair, head bowed low, looking utterly exhausted. Once seated, Junwoo buried his face in his hands, an image of unparalleled despair. Chilling realization made Ju Man-sik stand frozen, his eyes showing deep astonishment. He understood. Even when Junwoo fell, grabbing that chair wasn't accidental. His falling posture and the angle of his collapse were completely natural. The shattered props scattered around, along with Junwoo's dazed eyes, as if he no longer had the strength to stand, all combined to create a perfect scene. Looking up with haunting blue eyes, hands still clutching his head, Junwoo was completely immersed in the character's despair. Ju Man-sik acknowledged that Junwoo was right. Every detail in his performance was perfectly harmonized with the stage setting. As Junwoo gradually came out of character, Ju Man-sik, in a state of shock, whispered softly, "It's over." But immediately after, with a determined look, he thought, "This cannot be left as it is." Looking straight at Junwoo with bright blue eyes, Ju Man-sik declared decisively, "You absolutely must go on stage." Junwoo's narration begins, "It's been 2 years since I cut ties with my father." He was walking down a bustling city street, backpack on, a modern building behind him. A flashback shows him wearing a construction helmet, wiping blood from his hand, thinking, if I just put my mind to it, I could live an easy life. But under a bright sky with white clouds, he resolved, I swore I would never do those things again. And so, every day at the construction site, carrying heavy sacks became a kind of painful satisfaction. The simple words, yeah, it's somewhat satisfying, appear on a blank white background. However, as Junwoo eats a boxed lunch next to a large truck, he silently admits to himself, but I know very well. As he picked up food with chopsticks, he deeply understood what he had longed for a very long time. A colleague called out loudly upon seeing Junwoo eating, remarking that at his age, he should be out having fun, not stuck here. That person also casually mentioned hearing about a newly opened theater in the next neighborhood, and suggested Junwoo check it out. A close-up shows Junwoo's bright blue eyes glinting with a hint of interest upon hearing the suggestion. In the fading twilight, Junwoo silently pondered the word theater with a thoughtful expression. His white sneakers appear, moving forward, signifying his decision to go, though he said nothing. Inside the theater, Junwoo sat on a stool, intently watching actors rehearse a scene on a stage furnished with a sofa. Standing near the entrance, he realized this place wasn't a movie theater as he had thought, but a stage for a play. From the back of the theater, Junwoo silently observed the brightly lit stage, where a lone person sat below. Throughout the performance, he noticed a man in the audience sighing loudly, but he paid little attention to it. What truly occupied his mind was a strange, intensifying feeling as he watched the play unfold before him. Initially, he was a bit disappointed it wasn't a movie, but that feeling quickly vanished. He began to feel moved, a deep emotion he hadn't experienced in a very long time. He discovered that the energy radiating from the actors, living truthfully on stage before the audience, was completely different from so-called movie magic. It was at that moment, for the first time in his life, he clearly felt an intense longing to be on that stage. From that day on, he started going to the theater right after work, every single day, as if it were the place he belonged. His body seemed to act even before his mind could think, until one day, as he was sitting quietly as usual, Director Ju suddenly turned and asked his name. When he didn't answer immediately, the director repeated the question firmly and decisively, determined to know who he was. Since then, the man everyone thought was just a theater crew member kept asking about him, even offering to get him treatment here and then leave immediately after. Junwoo felt the man was a bit too meddlesome, but not in a bad way. His way of speaking was somewhat blunt, yet it concealed kindness, clearly not the type to harm others. Once Director Ju even grabbed Junwoo's arm and pulled him away from his workplace, scolding him for wasting time with such people. Junwoo was stunned, thinking to himself he couldn't believe people like this still existed. Then he sadly thought, that person must have also lived a life full of hardship. Returning to the present after another excellent performance by Junwoo, Director Ju looked at him with a serious gaze and said that things couldn't go on like this forever. He looked straight into Junwoo's eyes, seriously saying, "You must get on stage immediately." As Junwoo was preparing props and about to start a scene, Director Ju recalled everything that had happened. Honestly, he hadn't expected much from this boy's acting ability. He believed that emotions came from life experience, and no matter how talented Junwoo was, he was still just a 17-year-old boy. A boy who couldn't yet overcome the limitations in expression and acting. However, Director Ju was also very clear about the extraordinary intellect Junwoo possessed. He understood that the abilities that impressed him in Junwoo were merely the necessary preparatory tools for becoming an actor. Junwoo needed a real stage, not just this practice room. But Junwoo himself gently said, while preparing props, that he didn't want to go that far. Director Ju passionately continued to persuade Junwoo, asserting that his talent was truly rare, and if he trusted him and followed him, he could reach great heights. But Junwoo calmly replied that he liked his current life. As they left the practice room, Junwoo unexpectedly asked if all the scripts were kept in the practice room. This question made Director Ju turn back to look at him in surprise. He asked again if he really didn't want to act. He couldn't believe someone so talented would refuse the stage. Junwoo simply replied, "I don't want to become famous." Director Ju looked at him skeptically. At that moment, he realized this teenager was fully aware of his own abilities and talent. He gradually thought Junwoo's indifferent attitude was simply because he understood that, once he stepped on stage, fame would be inevitable. But Director Ju still tried to persuade him, saying that perhaps just becoming famous wasn't enough. But with this talent, he couldn't give up. He spoke sympathetically, saying he understood Junwoo had been through a lot, but also reminded him he was still very young, then asked what he had experienced to carry such a heavy burden, adding that he himself had struggled greatly to reach his current position. Director Ju shouted with intense emotion that he would take responsibility for everything that happened from now on, and urged Junwoo to live his own life. "Don't be afraid anymore." Junwoo laughed bitterly upon hearing the word responsibility. In his mind, a question echoed, "How can someone I've known for just over a month take responsibility for my life?" He sarcastically asked Director Ju back, "So, will you kill someone for me if you want to take responsibility?" And he was stunned when Director Ju, without hesitation, replied decisively and loudly, "I will." Then he shouted again, full of passion, asking Junwoo for the third time, "Will you act for me?" After that conversation, Junwoo stood backstage, dressed in a formal performance costume, preparing to step onto the stage for the first time in his life. His heart pounded, slightly nervous as he stood there peeking through a crack in the curtain at the waiting audience. The audience was seated, waiting for the performance to begin. The auditorium was completely full. Junwoo stood silently behind the curtain, watching the bright lights illuminate the stage, a mix of emotions surging within him. He quietly admitted to himself that he now fully understood the older man's feelings for him. Director Ju truly just wanted to ensure Junwoo's talent wouldn't be wasted. Clearly, he hadn't opened the way for him into the theater just to watch plays, but to give him a chance to use his God-given gift. Junwoo remembered Director Ju once saying he would take responsibility for him, and wondered if that was the real reason he couldn't refuse. The stage lights slowly came on. It was showtime. The stage curtain opened and Junwoo appeared before the audience for the first time, standing proudly and confidently on stage. From backstage, Director Ju intently watched his every move with great anticipation and focus. Director Ju smiled excitedly, thinking to himself, "It's starting." Someone beside him asked, "Is this the boy you mentioned before?" And Director Ju proudly replied, "Yes, that's him. But don't be too surprised, he's truly special." The assistant replied with concern, asking if Junwoo was really ready, especially since he had replaced the lead actor who quit just 5 days ago, and the script was full of long monologues. He also doubted Junwoo's acting experience, wondering how a kid who had never studied stage basics could master the role in just 5 days. But someone else corrected him, saying Junwoo didn't even have 5 days but exactly 12 hours to prepare, stunning everyone present. Director Ju began to explain to the man, emphasizing that it had only been 12 hours since he gave Junwoo the script. Junwoo stood on stage with absolute composure, waiting for the right moment to begin. Slowly and confidently, he raised his hand towards the light shining down from above the stage. That was the first movement to open his performance. Junwoo sat down on the chair and began to murmur his lines with sorrow. "I'm still trapped in those memories." He continued in a calm and sad voice, "Now I've lost her." Junwoo went on with a deep and emotional voice expressing his sorrow. "The world has imprisoned me in darkness and silence." And with a choked emotional voice he uttered, "The moment I first saw her, time seemed to stop within me." He confessed, "It was a feeling I had never experienced before." Junwoo continued with a powerful emotive voice, "When she took my hand and smiled, that was the moment of our first parting." With profound pain, Junwoo expressed utter helplessness. "I couldn't do anything. Absolutely nothing." Then he suddenly stood up, moving away from the chair, and continued, "We live in 2 completely different worlds." He knelt down, speaking of the suffering he had endured, the decisions he was forced to make. She would never understand. Then he screamed in a fit of intense emotion, "She was everything to me, so why did she say things like that?" Backstage, the assistant turned to Director Ju in amazement, asking, Where did you find such a monster? Referring to Junwoo's talent. Director Ju just watched everything silently. He knew well that, although Junwoo lacked stage breathing or vocal techniques, the entire auditorium was captivated by his performance. The director thought to himself that Junwoo wasn't merely reciting lines, he was truly living in the character. He also realized that Junwoo's lines changed slightly with each delivery, becoming deeper as emotions intensified, and he was portraying the character so vividly that if the character were real, he would speak exactly like that. Everyone in the theater stared in awe, wondering if he was really just acting, because the performance was unbelievably real. Just then, the actress playing Ellie stepped onto the stage. Junwoo saw her and rushed over, calling her name with an anxious voice. "Ellie!" He quickly grabbed her hand and pleaded desperately, begging her not to leave. Junwoo looked deeply into her eyes with infinite sadness as she told him, "There's something I never told you, the reason why I couldn't respond to you that day." And at that crucial moment, the actress suddenly realized she couldn't remember her next line. She stood frozen, flustered, trying to recall the line but could only utter fragmented, disjointed words. Backstage, Director Ju immediately realized what was happening and exclaimed worriedly, "She forgot her line!" He told himself that this sometimes happened to actors with little stage experience, because on a real stage, there's no chance to retake a scene like in movies. Director Ju wished she could skip the forgotten line and continue acting naturally, without pausing. Just then, Junwoo whispered to her, telling her not to continue. He quickly assessed the awkward situation they were in and began to improvise, his voice choked with emotion. "You don't need to say anything more. I already know." His eyes welled up, his voice beginning to tremble softly. He repeated in deep sorrow, "So then." Junwoo embraced the actress on stage and continued in a voice choked with pain. "So now." The curtain slowly closed, hiding the emotional scene Junwoo had just delivered, as the entire auditorium remained in stunned, emotional silence. The audience sat silently, eyes fixed on the stage, still mesmerized by the scene they had just witnessed. Then suddenly, the theater erupted in thunderous, enthusiastic applause, marking the success of the scene and the audience's wholehearted acceptance of Junwoo's performance. Backstage, Junwoo stood next to the other actors, stunned and silent, listening to the resounding applause from the auditorium. Junwoo and the actress walked off stage, feeling immense relief that the scene had concluded smoothly. Director Ju laughed in disbelief as he watched it all from behind, still amazed that such an outstanding performance had been prepared in just 12 hours. He recalled that normally, actors needed 2 weeks to analyze characters, understand the script, not to mention learn lines and coordinate stage movements with props. He was utterly stunned remembering that Junwoo not only memorized the script in record time, but also skillfully covered the supporting actress's mistake right on stage. This moment further affirmed the special talent this teenager possessed. Meanwhile, the backstage crew was buzzing with astonishment at the incredibly enthusiastic audience reaction after the first act ended. They couldn't understand how a 17-year-old boy could deliver such an outstanding and emotional performance in such a short time. The director turned to ask them if they truly realized what Junwoo had done, that he had completely changed the concept of the stage, the arrangement of chairs, movement patterns, lighting, and even color schemes. Hearing this, the assistant suddenly exclaimed that he hadn't realized it until that very moment. The entire backstage crew was stunned, and the assistant asked Director Ju if he truly understood all the techniques Junwoo had explained. Director Ju honestly replied that he didn't understand most of it, but he felt he had no choice but to trust him. After a short pause, Director Ju smiled faintly and confirmed one thing with absolute certainty. The kid standing over there is more talented than anyone else here. Junwoo sat in the dressing room, his heart filled with a strange emotion he couldn't name. Then he suddenly realized this wasn't the first time he had performed on stage. A vague past resurfaced. In his previous life, he was a professional swindler, always wearing multiple masks, playing various roles to deceive people. Back then, he never denied his acting ability. On the contrary, he knew exactly how good he was. He used to embody roles perfectly, transforming into completely different people without a single flaw. And with that talent, he had deceived and manipulated many people in his previous life. But this time, everything was completely different. For the first time, he faced the audience's gaze directly. These weren't ordinary looks. Each gaze was filled with emotion, lingering tears, and a strangely profound sense of connection. The climactic moment, he felt as if both he and everyone in the auditorium were transported to another world, an unreal place, yet more real than ever, just for a few short seconds. Junwoo realized that this second life of his was too real, too unfamiliar, and too strange. In his past life, he had chosen death. He even gave up his name, believing that way he could live on without facing his past. But now, under the stage lights shining down on him, he silently asked himself deep in his heart, "Can I do this seriously?" Right after the first act ended, Director Ju excitedly rushed towards the dressing room, emotionally calling Junwoo's name loudly. The actress, just entering, apologized for her mistake, saying she had suddenly gotten nervous. Placing a hand on Junwoo's shoulder, Director Ju spoke half-jokingly, his voice full of emotion. "This cunning kid pretending not to care at all. Turns out he was hiding such formidable talent." Then he continued teasingly, "It's time for you to go back on stage. Want to review the script?" Junwoo replied in a tired but calm voice, saying he felt a bit dazed. Director Ju tried to hide his joy and surprise, adding, "So, after all those complaints about the script, you finally took a real role, huh?" Junwoo replied, his voice low and sad, "I just don't want to be trapped between the lines anymore." Director Ju, surprised, looked at him as if he didn't understand, then curiously asked, "What does that mean? Is this another one of those thoughts only you understand?" At that moment, Director Ju suddenly reflected, feeling surprised. He remembered hearing similar words somewhere before. A veteran actor once said, "True preparation is keeping the character in your heart. And if you stare at the script for too long, you'll unknowingly become bound by it." He also remembered a seasoned actress saying that if an actor could truly feel the character's emotions, the lines would flow naturally. That's why she always tried to avoid reading the script too much while filming. Director Ju smiled inwardly as he recalled, "Back then, I thought those words were a bit cliché, but thinking back now, they were the culmination of over 20 years of acting experience." Unbelievably, those profound words had just been uttered by a young man standing on stage for the first time, having just completed his first ever scene. But clearly, every word Junwoo spoke carried an astonishing depth that couldn't be dismissed, even though he was still vague about many basic terms in stage drama. After some quick thinking, Director Ju suddenly realized Junwoo had surpassed him, a professional director in terms of artistic sensibility. That realization left him both bewildered and unsure how to treat the boy from now on. Suddenly, a crew member entered and loudly announced, "Act 2 is about to start. Everyone get ready." Junwoo stood up and walked towards the wings. Before leaving, he turned back to Director Ju and softly said, "Excuse me, I'll go ahead." He offered a gentle, calm smile, adding, "I'll be back soon." Junwoo returned to the stage, and once again, he performed the rest of the play with an astonishingly brilliant demeanor, stunning everyone. When the performance concluded, Junwoo, along with the entire cast, stood before the audience, who had risen to their feet, applauding ceaselessly, expressing their fervent admiration for the outstanding performance. In that crowd, one person stood tall and confident, finally feeling they had found what they had been searching for their entire life. The next morning after the performance, Junwoo sat alone in the practice room, engrossed in reading play scripts and books about theater, completely lost in the world of words. While absorbed, he heard a voice say, "Are you planning to spend your whole life just glued to those books?" Junwoo turned to see Director Ju entering the room with a worried look. "Where have you been hiding all morning?" Director Ju placed a box full of books in front of Junwoo and asked, "Will this be enough for now?" Junwoo stared at the pile of books the director had just brought, unable to hide his surprise. Director Ju gently encouraged him, saying the books might not be very exciting, but they would definitely be useful. He added, "I guess you've been feeling bored lately." Just then, Junwoo remembered that in this small remote town, there was only one library, the Jasmine Library, and it was quite far from the theater. He understood that Director Ju had to travel all the way to that distant place in the sweltering heat. Just because of a casual remark he made yesterday, it filled his heart with an indescribable emotion. Ju-man-sik stood nearby, observing Junwoo, who was sitting on the floor, his eyes devouring the words as if swallowing each letter. Seeing this, Ju-man-sik silently broke into a sweat, wondering, does this kid really need all this dry theory? He continued to think, or is giving him all this theory no different from suppressing his extraordinary instincts? Despite his inner hesitation, Ju-man-sik consoled himself, but this is all I can do for these kids. Junwoo smiled faintly, still engrossed in reading. This is really fun. Standing nearby, Ju-man-sik asked again, so is it at least a little helpful? Junwoo didn't look up from his book. He replied, this is the first time I've studied so seriously, and it's quite interesting. Ju-man-sik wiped his forehead, repeated, fun, huh? Then asked seriously, are you sure this is the first time you've studied these things? Junwoo looked up, his eyes brightening as if he'd had an epiphany. It's not just actors who know how to act. Ju-man-sik frowned. What do you mean? From the floor, Junwoo gently advised, be careful. People like you out there are easy targets. Still reading, Junwoo added, you just rush into everything without thinking. Ju-man-sik hesitated. People like me? Touching his neck defensively, Ju-man-sik retorted, when have I ever done that? Meanwhile, Junwoo nonchalantly read his book, making Ju-man-sik think, what does a little kid like you know? At that moment, Junwoo looked up, his blue eyes sharp. You're doing it with me right now. Ju-man-sik looked serious as Junwoo implied he was acting rashly, without knowing anything about the other person. Junwoo fell silent, his lips pursed in thought. A moment of silence passed between them. Ju-man-sik now only appeared from behind, still holding a book. Junwoo suddenly asked, do you want me to become famous? Ju-man-sik replied thoughtfully, not necessarily. Standing amidst the bookshelves in the storage area, Ju-man-sik elaborated, actually, I just hope you get to live true to what you really want. He pondered for a minute. Looking at Junwoo, Ju-man-sik admitted, you might think I'm using you. The poster for the play 8 Angry Men appeared behind him as Ju-man-sik continued. Even if you had ruined the performance, I still would have gone to the bookstore today. Junwoo smirked as if expecting that. Possibly. But if I thought you were using me, I would have demanded money from the theater long ago. Holding the book, Junwoo said seriously, anyway, thank you for these books. I really need them. Ju-man-sik looked slightly surprised. Really? Junwoo, without looking up, replied curtly, really. A close-up of Junwoo's lips full of determination, his thoughts echoing, I will definitely repay you later. The sun is setting. A voice calls out from outside the theater. Hello, Director Ju-man-sik. The director turned to look upon hearing his name called. A bead of sweat rolled down as Ju-man-sik's eyes widened in utter shock. The visitor continued, so you're the one running this theater. Ju-man-sik screamed internally. This person is... He confusedly wondered why that person was here, while the other man stood before the theater gate. An overlay shows a large headquarters building with a flag flying on its roof. The visitor repeated, hello, Director Ju-man-sik, I hear you're running this theater. Ju-man-sik continued to think, why him? Why is he here? The man who had many stars in his hand. That man was Choi Jae-min, CEO of NK Entertainment, a name even those outside the industry knew. He was the one with the power to cast actors for major film projects, nearly all of which became successful. Ju-man-sik, slightly flustered, asked, well, but what brings you here? Choi Jae-min just smiled gently and replied, I really enjoyed yesterday's performance. Then, Choi Jae-min began to ask about the boy from yesterday, while Ju-man-sik stood still, sweat starting to bead on his forehead from tension. When asked if Junwoo was a member of the theater troupe, Ju-man-sik nodded in confirmation, then quickly corrected himself, saying that although the boy wasn't an official member, he was indeed working there. Standing before the theater entrance, Choi Jae-min seriously said he wanted to make an offer, then bowed slightly, apologizing for his sudden arrival and confessing it was the first time he had acted so impulsively. A faint smile appeared on Choi Jae-min's face as he said, "It's been a long time since I've felt that way," as if referring to something very special. A flashback shows Jun-woo on stage, a spotlight shining down on him like a bright star. In that frame, Choi Jae-min's monologue is heard. "It felt like finding a buried precious gem." Joo Man-sik asked directly, "Are you planning to cast Jun-woo in a role?" Choi Jae-min waved his hand, explaining, "It's not just about casting." Choi Jae-min began to explain that they were having difficulty finding a suitable child actor for an upcoming project, because even talented child actors mostly only played bright roles. Joo Man-sik listened attentively as Choi Jae-min continued. "Child actors often find it hard to portray maturity, but Jun-woo can convey the life of a 30-year-old man naturally, without any awkwardness." The man in the baseball cap, now revealed as Choi Jae-min, firmly asserted that Jun-woo even surpassed that level of performance. Choi Jae-min, looking extremely impressed, softly exclaimed, "Really?" as if unable to believe the boy's capabilities. Standing with Joo Man-sik in front of the theater, beside the 8 Angry Men play poster, Choi Jae-min thought to himself, "Such talent hidden away in a place like this?" Joo Man-sik's face turned serious as he said, "Jun-woo's ability isn't just outstanding." Then he asked Choi Jae-min, "Do you have any specific plans for the boy yet?" Choi Jae-min, slightly surprised, repeated the question with a probing look. "Plans?" Joo Man-sik gestured with his hand, saying he already knew the professional scale of NK Entertainment, and was asking if Choi Jae-min intended to provide formal training, involve the boy in major domestic and international projects. Joo Man-sik continued listing opportunities like attending international events, then added, "Of course, if the boy wants that," interspersed with images of professional training programs. Choi Jae-min, sweating slightly, asked in surprise, "You want me to invest such huge opportunities for free in a young, inexperienced rookie?" Joo Man-sik calmly countered, "I think you know very well after watching the performance. That's why you're waiting here with such eagerness." Choi Jae-min remained silent, thinking, chin in hand. Choi Jae-min smiled faintly and replied, "I understand. I'll do my best to support him," but added, "This isn't something I can decide alone." Joo Man-sik thought, "He still seems hesitant. He probably doesn't fully understand the kid's true potential yet." Then he thought further, "What you saw was only half of it." Close up on Joo Man-sik's determined eyes behind his glasses, showing his unwavering belief in Jun-woo. Choi Jae-min offered NK Entertainment's business card, explaining they just wanted to create a suitable environment to nurture the boy's talent. He handed the card to Joo Man-sik, adding, "I hope you'll consider the quickest and most convenient path for the boy, as I know you care a lot about him." Before leaving, Choi Jae-min told Joo Man-sik to think carefully and let him know his decision. The sunset descended behind the man's silent, retreating figure. Later at the theater, Jun-woo lay sprawled on the wooden floor, surrounded by scattered books, gentle sunlight streaming through the window. Lying there, he muttered, "What should I do now?" Worried about not having enough money. He continued to think, "Anyway, teacher Joo Man-sik isn't someone who chases money." While pondering, the sound of a door opening unexpectedly caught his attention. The 8 Angry Men poster still hung on the wall. Joo Man-sik peeked in, silently observing Jun-woo, then thought, "I can tell the kid is starting to get bored." Still on the floor, Jun-woo looked up as Joo Man-sik cleared his throat softly to announce his presence. Stepping inside, Joo Man-sik asked, "I came to see if you're okay, but why aren't you asking any questions? You have a good teacher beside you, yet you're so quiet." Through his glasses, Joo Man-sik seemed to wonder why Jun-woo had no questions when he clearly had an opportunity to learn. Jun-woo, picking up a book, was about to ask, "But," when Joo Man-sik looked at the book and said, "So you do have something you want to know." Pointing to a marked page, Jun-woo said, "I see this part is already translated, but reading the example, the meaning feels a bit different." Joo Man-sik sat down opposite Jun-woo, confidently saying, "All right, let me see. I may only have 5 years of experience, but I've learned 10 years' worth of knowledge." Jun-woo pointed to a script passage and said, "This is my part. while Ju Man-sik thought, has the moment I can finally help him arrived? Close-up on Ju Man-sik's eyes as he exclaimed in surprise, "Huh?" Staring intently at the script page with a puzzled expression, Ju Man-sik muttered, what language is this? I've studied ancient literature, but it was all translations. I've never seen this form. His face grew increasingly tense. He was about to explain, well, this is... then suddenly shot up from his seat. Junwoo looked up, slightly surprised by his teacher's abrupt action. Then Ju Man-sik clutched his stomach, ran off saying, "Oh no, stomachache. You keep looking at it, okay?" Leaving Junwoo amidst the room full of Muttering Man and 8 Angry Men posters. Suddenly a sound echoed from somewhere. Standing alone in the hallway, Ju Man-sik looked extremely disappointed and dejected after what had just happened. A close-up of his eyes revealed the thought, "How much more are you going to surprise me?" Although it was the outcome he expected, Ju Man-sik still felt anxious because Junwoo's rapid development had surpassed his ability to guide him. He admitted to himself, "Though I've experienced many failures, this is the first time I've felt truly helpless." His eyes heavy with worry, he wondered, "With my limited abilities, how much further can I lead this boy?" He looked towards the boy and asked himself. Ju Man-sik looked closely at the passage Junwoo had pointed to, while a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. A wave of relief washed over Ju Man-sik as he recognized the familiar text, thinking to himself, luckily I know this part. Immediately after, Ju Man-sik began to explain Brecht's theory of the fourth wall, stating it's the concept of an imaginary wall separating the audience from the stage. Ju Man-sik continued to explain that in Brecht's plays, actors would sometimes break this fourth wall to communicate directly with the audience. He added, as Junwoo listened attentively, that this technique helps connect the play to social messages, transcending mere entertainment. Junwoo nodded, showing he understood, then pointed to another passage in the book to indicate he grasped that part as well. Standing in the hallway, Junwoo said that this next part wasn't too difficult to understand either. The scene transitions to a clear blue sky with fluffy white clouds, then gradually moves inside Ju Man-sik's office. A while later, Ju Man-sik was engrossed in studying at his desk, completely immersed in books. Towering stacks of books surrounded him. One of them unexpectedly fell to the ground with a soft thud. A close-up shot shows him holding a book titled Understanding Stage Drama. Ju Man-sik sat pensively, his gaze distant, musing on the irony of returning to study theatrical theories at his age. Hunched over his desk, he diligently took notes, wondering if he had ever been this passionate about learning since entering the theater world. However, a clear look of anxiety on his face showed this passion for learning didn't last long. With innate talent fueled by love and passion, the boy's rate of progress surpassed all imaginable limits. By now, he no longer needed theoretical books, as his abilities had surpassed even seasoned professionals in the field. When all the staff had left, Junwoo carefully rearranged the empty stage, then perfectly reenacted scenes. He mastered the emotions, habits of each character, as well as their movements, the changing light angles according to the mood of each scene, truly entering the realm of art. During practice, he retained only the core emotions from the script, then rewrote all the remaining dialogue himself. Indeed, this was no longer mere practice. It was him, alone, filling the stage, immersing himself in the performance experience.